I run a business called Bluefruit, and today I'm going to be talking about our agile journey. I've tried to avoid the PowerPoint route, so to make it a bit more interesting, we're going with a role-playing game style of presentation here. Okay? So, the story so far. Story so far, I founded Bluefruit back in 2000, 16 years ago. We're based down here in Cornwall, and we're focused on writing embedded software. We provide embedded software development as a service, so our customers are kind of equipment manufacturers. Our agile journey started 8 years after we started. By then there were just 5 of us at Bluefruit, and we were running very successfully. We had very happy customers, a happy team, and we were delivering projects very successfully. We just completed a lucrative project. That happened. We were working fixed scope, fixed price, but we had a client come along with a very certain deadline that needed to be achieved, and so they offered a bonus for us getting there. So, but that sort of motivated us or inspired us to transfer everything that we had at achieving that deadline. So we bought loads more tools than we needed. We had plenty of hardware. We did everything was right, and we were just amazed at really what difference it made by doing everything the right way. So that kind of set us off on our journey, and gave us some money to actually start experimenting with how we did things. We had some goals as we set off. We wanted to grow the business. There was a lot of demand for what we were doing, and we wanted to improve the quality of what we did. There were markets out there that needed kind of quality, that needed more formality. But we also had experience on that project, what difference it made, building that quality into what we did. But we wanted to do all of that without losing the good stuff. You know, we were very flexible, we were very good at listening to our customers, and we didn't want to throw that away by introducing some formal structure. So our agile journey wasn't starting from some kind of waterfall approach, it was starting from a kind of flexible place, a small team, and we just didn't want to lose that as we scaled. So that's me. Setting off on the journey. I'll just point out we've got the year here is 2008, 5 of us in the team, and we've got no agile experience points on our journey. So we decided that we needed some sort of methodology on how we work. We found agile, we found there were dozens of different agile approaches. We did some research, and we kind of selected one called Iconics. We chose this because we didn't know much about agile, and Iconics was still some design upfront, some UML, has sprints, but longer sprints. And it was very prescriptive, which was quite attractive as we were starting off on our journey, because it told us exactly how to do everything. So we got a book, and we set off on our journey with our newfound skills, sprints and vertical slices. Well, not going to get in the tent. No, okay. It's the secret level, bonus level. So here's our generic customer. Actually, it's a customer called Elga Lab Water. They do water purifiers, and they came to us looking for innovation. So they already had a supplier. They were a very prestigious offshore outsourcing business, and they were very good at delivering specification exactly as requested. But these guys were looking to innovate. They had some great ideas about how the project was going to work. So we tried out our newfound skills of vertical slicing and project magic on it. And it went all well. So we delivered the project successfully. And that gave us a lot of confidence that we were kind of doing things the right way, and that agile would work for us. We get the steps, we're into 2009 now, so we're starting to grow and take on some staff. Interestingly, we took on an analyst. This was because Iconics is the process that we were using at the time. was a sort of mini V model, and so it had a sort of analysis phase at the beginning of each sprint. So that seemed like the right thing. But we were still fumbling our way a bit, and we had a lot of questions and a lot of bits that we didn't understand. So we searched on the internet and found a lady called Nancy Van Schwentwerth, she's based in Boston. We found her because she has got quite a lot of experience getting Agile working with embedded. And we were still very concerned that Agile and embedded were actually compatible. Although it was 2009, we weren't. So Agile had been around for a while then, hardly anyone was doing it in the embedded world. So it was a big help. She was running a seminar over in Boston, and we sent one of our top guys over there, and he learned about TDD from James Grenning and some other skills along the way. We're also starting to work with bigger corporations now, as we're growing, and so we had a sort of technical salesperson to help kind of create this interface between our Agile team and what was typically a waterfall process going on with our customers. So in 2010, we're taking on more. Will was our first dedicated tester. Before then, developers had been doing all their own testing. And we were scaling the business, and we took on a general manager to help with HR and things like that. This project was interesting. I haven't got all the projects we did over this 8-year period, but tried to choose the interesting ones that were relevant on our Agile journey. So this was actually in aerospace, hence the flying thing. It's an aerospace project with some software that went on the helicopter, and this was great for us because actually before we started on our Agile journey, we didn't have sufficient rigor. We weren't doing unit testing. And here we were doing TDD now, and we were getting unit testing almost for free, really, as part of our process. And this is great for us to understand that Agile was opening doors for us and really pushing forward the quality of what we were delivering. Another successful project. Carry on our journey. If anyone really sees you. This is Robert, by the way, my assistant operating the game for me. So we're getting bigger and bigger projects, so we're building the team more and more. We took on Addy, who's a background in aerospace, Laurent, who's a low-level engineer. So around this time, 2010, there was an Agile program started here in Cornwall by Oxford Innovation. And so they were bringing Agile coaches into Cornwall. And they introduced us to Alan Kelly, who some of you probably know. And he helped us start to think a bit more about, rather than just using Agile on a day-to-day basis for how we were programming, he got us thinking about the business processes, the principles underlying what we were doing, and just starting to look a bit more at the bigger picture. Sort of described these sort of 3 layers of principles at the top, and then business or project management practices, as well as the technical ones, and how we really needed to invest time in understanding all 3 of those levels. He also introduced us to planning paper and helped us particularly with that business practices level. At this time we were still doing fixed price, fixed scope contracts, so estimating was really important to us at that stage. And this particular project we were competing against another supplier, so it was really important that we had good estimates that were realistic. Also, on the Agile program, Alan Kelly introduced us to John Jaggett, who's also here today, and he helped us a lot on the technical practices side of things, which was and still is really important to us. So a lot of people who say they're doing Agile, but doing the Scrum stuff, doing the project management in an Agile way. But for us, particularly in this embedded environment, it's really important that the quality of the code remains good. If you're genuinely changing requirements every 2 weeks, then we really need these practices down at the technical level. And John Jaggett helped us with TDD and helped us understand the link between TDD and object-oriented design. Then we had, this is Nancy again, so we actually got Nancy over from Boston and spent a week with us. So until now, we were still working with Iconics, but we were having some challenges partly we'd chosen it for how prescriptive it was, and that was really helpful when we were starting off. But as we were starting to learn and understand and get feedback from our customers and feedback out of our retrospectives, we were finding it hard to actually adapt and benefit from that learning. So Nancy introduced us to Lean Agile as a way of working, which gives us these lean principles, and then you've got the toolkit, and you can pick and choose. And be guided by those principles. She introduced us to Mary Poppendit and Tom Poppendit's book, Lean Software Development, which we, to this day, we still use as our main guidance when we're looking at our processes. And both John and Nancy were really good at giving us these kind of sound bites, these kind of memes to help us on our learning. And actually, this is probably the most important one to us, that Agile is good at bubbling problems to the surface. But the success or failure of adopting Agile very much is still down to the team and how they deal with those issues. So, for example, when we were doing test-driven development, we discovered that our object-oriented design wasn't actually quite good enough, and so we were struggling making our designs testable. And that was a problem that bubbled to the surface. Agile was never going to help us get good at object-oriented design. It was something that we had to tackle with training. Nancy also, so at this stage we're making the leap from Iconics, where we've got this guidebook, to Lean Agile, where it's kind of showing us the way, but in a non-prescriptive way. So we need to really bolster up our toolkit, and Nancy gives us a reading list there, which helps with user stories. Iconics used use cases actually, and there's a sort of subtle difference between the two. So we're now adopting user stories and other practices and lean practices as well. So this project here was the first one that we took on with our Lean Agile approach, and it was a particularly complex design space. We didn't even know what platform would work, what processes to use, what operating system to use, or anything. So we used our kind of lean skills to develop actually a number of solutions in parallel and narrow down to a working solution. So we're now Lean Agile, stitched Iconics together. So we're going into 2011 now, and there's 11 of us on the team, so we've been doing some growing. 12th member of the team joining here. But we're actually quite green now again, because we're in the Lean Agile world. Take on this project, and this was the first time that we really got good at doing user stories. It was certainly for me a kind of lesson in terms of, we often talk about kind of user journey when we talk about user experience and improving the actual software. I also like to think about a developer's journey through the project, how they get from day one of the project to when the project's delivered. And how do you build that brick by brick in a way that you're getting feedback all the way through. User stories were the key to that for us. And understanding that and properly vertically slicing in a way that works for the customer but works for the developers too. More software engineers joining. So now we were having John Jagger in on a regular basis. So we were starting to appreciate that part of this Agile journey really depended on an obsession with training. And to this day we still have weekly training that we run internally. The guys come along to what we call open sessions. And we have an external training coming in on a monthly basis to keep pushing the boundaries. You can see what Tom was introducing us to that. Cyber Dojo, yeah. So that was a tool that John Jaggers wrote to help learn test-driven development. But also just with our general internal learning, it became an absolutely invaluable tool. Rather than having things like coding style documents, we use Cyber Dojo with the team, and they would iterate just on a problem and debate patterns and practices, and we ended up converging on solutions rather than being kind of fed top down. So at this stage we were still doing fixed price, fixed scope contracts, and this was proving to be our biggest barrier really to really benefiting from Agile. 2011 was the first year of Agile on the Beach, and the keynote speaker, one of the keynote speakers that year was Mary Popdick, one of the authors of the book that we were using as our Bible. So we were fortunate enough to grab some time with her in the lunch break or something to talk a bit about agile contracts. And so we started experimenting with those. On this next project coming up, we took an approach of moving away from fixed price, fixed scope to charging per point. Seemed like a good idea, and it was definitely an improvement because it allowed us to vary the scope based on feedback that came out from the sprints along the way. But we were still taking commercial responsibility for the velocity. We later realised actually there's so many factors affecting velocity that was still a barrier to effective learning along the way. So we took on this project which had a very woolly scope, and having these kind of agile contracts really helped us manage that. These projects are getting bigger and bigger all the time, so we're taking on more and more developers. 40. This was an interesting point for us as well. Although we'd had a tester before, he was very test focused, as you might imagine. We took on Sam, who was a test engineer who was also had some coding skills, and he really started getting us thinking about how we were doing testing, how those were linked with how we captured requirements, how they were, were we testing the right thing, and was it representative to this spec that's evolving all the time. And they weren't at that stage. We had a problem, and we looked around, got advice, and we found BDD, behavioural driven development. I don't know how many of you will be familiar with that, but it's very technically it's very similar to test driven development, but its goal is completely different. Really, the goal is a communication one. It's about getting a good understanding between the customer, the developers, and the testers. We do that really by making specs and tests the same thing, the same document, and so that makes it easier as they evolve through the project to make sure that the two are in sync and basically automated acceptance testing. So we had Kevin in to help with that. This project had a very unusual level of unknown, so we experimented a bit more with our contracts, and we actually just tried time and materials. We thought this was going to be a problem for our customers, but actually it was interesting with this experiment that it wasn't at all. It really freed us to do agile the proper way, to make best use of the emergent learning that's going on. And we were worried that customers would be worried about what was going on with the budget, but actually the agile toolkit solved that problem anyway. We were estimating everything at points. We were publishing what our velocity was, so our customer could have confidence about the productivity, and be confident that we were progressing at a good pace. And if the velocity dropped, then it triggered an open dialogue about what the causes were for that. So that worked well for us. Although we didn't adopt it across the board straight away, we did after another year or so. So these are two developers we took on who later both became, coincidentally, both became team leads. Matthew. Ross was another test engineer we took on, and this was interesting because as we were starting to recruit more heavily, finding people with embedded skills and agile skills was really quite hard. And so another important part of our agile journey was how we're going to recruit and find people who come into the team and understand agile. And one approach that we took was to start kind of grow our own program. And we did that by taking on testers who we believed had an aptitude for becoming developers. And so they would come on as testers, and they would start learning the agile culture within the business and how sprints were run and all those aspects. They were very motivated testers, so they were working hard. We were giving them 20-30% of their time to study as developers, and that also kind of gave them a good eye for problems. And so Ross was the first person we took on that basis, and he was a developer within 18 months, and so we copied with that going forward. This project was interesting because it was the first one for us where we were working with a client who had their own software team. So we were helping expand their capacity. But this was interesting because they were non-agile, we were agile. So we started off and with a sort of partition in the project, and we were doing one product, they were doing another product. But their team could see the way we were working. We were significantly more productive than their team to start with, and we were really churning through the features much quicker than they were. And their team didn't see that as a threat, but were actually genuinely interested, and they were going home and trying TDD in their spare time. And so we never provided formal training, but we sort of provided training by osmosis. And actually within a few months we were starting to work on the same code base, and within a year we were actually working on the same backlog and having data stand-ups remotely, and that worked really well. We did use Cyberdojo a bit to help converge on practices. So we're still having John Jagger in regularly, it's really important, and he kept, although we were having internal training, we were doing Cyberdojos ourselves and learning from each other, and that was good for spreading the practices that we had. But in terms of kind of pushing ourselves forward, John would come in, fresh eyes, and say, come on guys, you really need to be getting builds up and running, you really need information reducers on the wall, and it would also help find potential solutions to problems. So part of the learning loops is making stuff visible with these information regulators. The next project here was a medical project. So again, this was us growing in confidence in terms of what Agile was helping us do. And actually, there were myths floating around at that time that Agile would be less formal than Waterfall, and certainly that would be the worry of some of our customers. But actually, our experience was it was helping us deliver these in a really meaningful way. So this was a medical product, and it was really important that there was traceability between tests and requirements. We had this great new tool now, BDD, that was helping us do that in an automated way, both in terms of automated tests and automated reports. And even though the requirements were changing, those were always tightly coupled. So these projects are getting bigger and bigger, the teams are getting bigger and bigger. So one of the challenges is how we architect these much bigger code bases. And so again, we've got Kevin in and did some training and gave some ideas about how Agile architecture works. We gave us some tools to manage that so that we could get good architecture on these projects. So another aspect that Agile was helping us get better at was where user experience was required. So for us as embedded engineers, the user experience often isn't about the user interface, the screen and the buttons, sometimes it is, but in this case it's actually an actual byte. And the user experience is actually how the systems gets ramped in and ramped out, and how you configure it, and what the ride is like. We found that Agile was really helping us with that, just by working in sprints and having regular feedback points with our customer, and that they've got stuff that they can demo to do for field trials and that kind of thing. And that we were getting much better at user experience than we've been before. These are supposed to be little reminders for me on the project side, but something a bit tenuous. Pause was a reminder that as a bike project. So we're getting to 2013 now, and we've now, there's about 20 of us. So we've been doing a lot of recruiting, a lot of training, and John Jagger again is still coming in, helping us regularly, really bringing up, making sure that all the new recruits and all the existing people are at this, at a minimum level. by now we're building on our own strategy more and more. We've had quite a lot of success with Ross and others, so we're taking on more and more testers. But generally, we like to keep the balance between testers and developers about 1 to 3, 1 to 4. But we're taking on more testers than that because they're coming through becoming developers. So one interesting thing that you might have spotted with the numbers is we're often, this happens on test stream development and a lot of the other practices, we'd often get introduced to a skill and then it would take about 2 years before we became fully competent with that skill. So we were introduced to BDD back in 2012 and we tried it out in a few projects where it seemed really appropriate and we started getting better at it. And 2 years later we were like, we wanted to adopt it comprehensively across all of our projects. But there was some barriers to that. There were some complications about how we applied it to certain projects, and also we had problems getting buy-in from all of our customers. So we got Seth Rose in, who's spoken here last year, I don't think he's here this year. Actually it was his suggestion that we brought our customers into that training as well, and that worked really well to get them to really understand what we were trying to achieve and what the challenges were. So the first project where we really try BDD out in anger is this one, which is a second generation for these heating guys. Where these are the guys who've got their own in-house team, they came back with a much bigger project, and BDD was exactly what was required. So at times, although we were leading on this project, we had up to 12 developers on this project at any one time. They had that late, so the overall development team of the project was about 20 people, and we were leading on that. And so BDD was key, but actually a lot of these practices were actually, they're all kind of gelling together now and really helping us deliver, and the client was adopting these as well. That was about an 18-month project actually when the project started, but it was delivered very successfully. So recruitment is still a challenge at this stage. So we're thinking more about building on our grow our own strategy. We kind of have this goal of recruiting half our staff through our grow our own approach. And so we built on the success of our kind of trainee approach, of our sort of trainee testers, developers. We started summer school. This was the first year that we ran it. We just had the third one. And this is a kind of 2-week boot camp for graduates, and John Jagger helped kick that off. So we took on 3 members of staff from that summer school. 2 of them came straight on as junior engineers. One of them came in at the sort of tester to become developer route. And all 3 of the staff are with us now. You know, we get a lot of loyalty through this kind of grow our own approach. So we're now getting quite good. Our toolkit is really working for us, and we're winning bigger and bigger customers. Cosworth, I can't mention what the project was, but they were playing with Agile themselves. Agile was actually, whereas 2 years before we were having to pitch it, get our customers to understand what it was about, solve some problems about how it fit in with their waterfall approach. We're finding more and more that these customers are understand Agile already. It's becoming a selling point, the fact that we're doing it already. The other interesting thing about this project is it was one of our early time and materials ones. In fact, it was when we were just becoming completely time and materials in our approach. And it was one where that really worked again, and it really put to bed my concerns about whether the budget was going to be a challenge with our customers. And so we'd estimated the Cosworth project at 10 sprints, something like that. That was more than their budget. They said that target budget really is around 5 sprints. We could have spent ages debating over the scope of spec, what can you take out, but because they understood how Agile worked, they said, we agreed, let's just get started. Let's prioritise the backlog. The budget will go as far as it will. If we get the right features in, we were confident we could reach an MVP within their budget, and that project actually ran for 7 sprints. So we delivered well within our our estimates, and around the kind of target budget. So from that point on, we were doing time and materials contracts on all our projects. So as I said, we were getting a lot of very positive feedback from our customers, our existing customers. This was really working well. We were very happy with it, the team were very happy, but our potential customers didn't know what we were doing, so we started investing a bit more in marketing and blogging and our website, and just we now felt that actually selling that we were agile was, people would understand and see the benefit of that. So we're into 2015 now. We're getting really confident and taking on bigger projects. We've scaled our teams, we've got 3 teams now. 2015 really is a bit of a showcase for us, kind of really delivering big projects very successfully. This one's particularly interesting because it's the kind of 3rd generation. So we're really reaping the benefits of a lot of these practices. We're building on the existing code base that we've written using our agile tools. We've used our agile architecture, we've got TDD in place, and we're really getting the benefit of these. Again, delivering these projects very successfully. And obviously, customers are very happy with the way it's working, so they're coming back again and again. Recruiting. It's just another example project. It was for a system to go in a yacht for the America's Cup. Very high performance system, very technical. And again, Agile is really helping us deliver that successfully. To point out, we've got quite a catalogue of skills there now. That's not all of them actually, but it gives you a good feel of the spread of skills that we're applying. Spotted one yesterday, an important one missing there was retrospectives, or something that was introduced early on that was really important to the learning. And again, we're still just pushing the boundaries of how we do architecture and how we tackle these bigger and more complicated projects with more people involved. Also building on our grow our own approach, we started working on an apprenticeship program with Cornwall College. We took on 3 apprentices at the end of last year. It's another way of just feeding this pipeline. It's the last project we're going to talk about. Again, it's just another example. This is for a local company called Watson Marlowe, and they are obsessed about process, how they do things, how we can do engineering in the best possible way to get the best possible outcomes. They were dissatisfied with their existing supplier, came to us, and they didn't know about Agile before, and they've been really blown away by it. In particular, just working with sprints from their point of view, because they've got multidisciplines, mechanical guys, electronic guys. The fact that we're giving them fully tested, sort of production tested releases on a fortnightly basis, month after month after month, really helps their processes, and they're really excited about it. So that's about it really. That brings us to this year. So to kind of recap, got a generic customer here really. So these are all the challenges that Agile has helped us tackle along the way. It's helped us innovate, helped us with rigor, helped us push up the quality, and these are some of the skills that helps us get there. So we've got very happy customers, and we get a lot of positive feedback on a regular basis, unprompted, from our customers. And so just to recap on our goals when we set off, our goals were to grow. Well, we've definitely done that. About 34 of us now, and all working well together, and they're all very happy, and very much bought into the process and really enjoy working that way. Customers are very happy, and we're delivering these projects very successfully. Any questions?